Welcome back to the Mainstream. Same great show, but some new faces today. Saxon, welcome.
Thanks, Morgan.
It's good to have you. And I should say straight off the top that our regular host, Daniel Wild, is not in dereliction of his duties today. He is on parental leave, so we wish him the very best. But I think I wanted to get off first thing. The only topic that I wanted to talk about first today was James Hird. we are on Hird Watch.
Yeah.
We're both fans of the Essendon Football Club, and we've been talking about the need for James Hird to return to the coaching role for some time now. And I will actually catalogue this. So on the 8th of May, on an episode of the Mainstream, you made the point that Hird needed to be reappointed as Essendon's coach. On the 22nd of May, on an episode of the Mainstream, I repeated that point. And 3 days later, on the 25th of May, Brad Scott was sacked as Essendon's coach and threw open the door for Hird to return. Now, if that's not a sign of impact, I don't know what is. Well, but what is happening?
The influence of the Mainstream podcast has no bounds. Morgan, we're quite wide-reaching, and
on all topics,
and when you think about, we are called the Mainstream, and sort of the mainstream Essendon supporter does actually want James Hird to be the coach of the Essendon Football Club.
Yeah.
And earlier this week, it was confirmed that he was going to be part of the coaching process and is in line for the job.
I saw this and I saw, as far as I'm concerned, it's a one-horse race.
Yes.
And the club seems to be saying that, there's a dozen or so people that they're going to be talking to. Come on, let's be real.
Yeah.
Let's actually we know where we're going.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just get it done.
Exactly.
But I think it's so overdue, and there's a lot of talk about in the sports law about curses.
Yeah.
And I actually fully believe that Essendon has been cursed by how the club threw Hird under the bus all those years ago in the supplement slugger. So
yeah, absolutely.
So we'll continue to cover this story.
Yeah.
If things come across our desk, we may circle back to it. But I can say to you now that the Mainstream can project that James Hird will be the coach of the Essendon Football Club. But on to other matters. Now, Essendon may be some time away from a premiership, but a man who is on the cusp of a different premiership is Andy Burnham.
Yes.
The veteran UK Labour Party politician has recently re-entered the House of Commons and is set to become the next British Prime Minister, possibly this month. And this week, he gave a speech before his supporters in Manchester, outlining his plan to fix Britain's broken politics, as he calls it, including ideas such as setting up a new office called Number 10 North to distribute power and resources across the UK, ramping up government house building programs, and speaking vaguely on the reindustrialisation and regeneration of neglected towns. What do you make of all this? Do you think this is really... Does this accurately reflect the reasons why the British public had turned so strongly against Keir Starmer?
No, I don't believe so. So Keir Starmer suffered quite broadly from both too much and a lack of mandate within his premiership. Yeah. And this is the great risk of running a small target strategy. It has the effect of that when crises emerge, such as the UK's immigration crisis, the people expect you to do something because you're the government, but you also have no mandate to do anything because all of a sudden you're either going beyond what you said you were going to do during the election campaign, or you've actually broken a promise that you made during that election campaign.
Well, they certainly never campaigned to. I mean, I think how many elections in a row now in the UK have governments and oppositions promised to solve the migration problem, and once again, the promise was broken, and this is where they're at. And of course, I looked through the speech that Burnham gives, and he doesn't mention things like the migration problem. He doesn't mention the UK's relationship with the European Union. He doesn't mention things like two-tier policing and multiculturalism in government services. So I'm quite confused about the whole thing. Obviously, Sir Keir Starmer's very unpopular. But I don't really see Burnham as being a break from the past, or he's talking about he's the king of the north, and he's going to come and break the London bubble, the Westminster bubble. But he is the
Westminster bubble. I mean, we're talking about someone who was quite a senior cabinet minister in the Blair and Gordon Brown era of UK politics. Now, I reckon if you ask the average punter in the downtrodden outside of the Westminster bubble areas of the United Kingdom, even particularly in Manchester, where he was just recently mayor, they actually hate the Blair era.
Yeah.
And they hate the Brown era, and they view the sort of David Cameron era as an extension of that previous New Labour era of British politics.
I completely agree. I think this is the big problem in the UK now is, like, he's talking about the Westminster bubble, but the Blair era, Blairism, was really about supercharging the Westminster bubble. This was like the accretion of power from Parliament to the quangos and to the departments, to the unelected bureaucracy, to essentially operate as a perennial and permanent left-wing government.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is a big part of why the Conservatives were not able to do anything, because they didn't challenge that Blair. But everything that's happening in the UK now is really a legacy of that Blair era, of which Andy Burnham was a senior part.
Was a very senior and serious part of it.
So I don't think that how is it going to change?
I don't think it will. I'm of the belief that while, yes, Keir Starmer is very unpopular with the British public, I don't actually think he's the main catalyst for their declining poll numbers.
Yeah.
The declining poll numbers have been driven by the issues that we've spoken about. Immigration, the sort of that, Brexit sort of happened, but not really. Sort of two-tier policing. Yeah. A lot of the sort of internet censorship that has occurred, and, arresting people on the street for posting memes or comments on social media.
Police turning up at your door at 2 a.m. about a Twitter post.
Or getting arrested while landing at Heathrow.
And frankly, I don't think he's, as you said, that was not a Starmer problem.
No,
it was not.
It was a broad.
That is systemic problem. That is an institutional problem.
An institutional bureaucracy problem with bureaucrats that want to insert themselves into everyday life.
That's it.
That's actually the driving force behind the unpopularity of this Labor government in the UK. And
it should be said, the Conservatives. This is, if you want to understand why reform is a thing, you have to understand that.
Well, also, in stating Andy Burnham is also, because he's such a political insider, he's been an elected official in some form since 2001. Yeah. This is not an outsider.
Yeah.
This is not and what people are screaming for in the United Kingdom are political outsiders, for better or for worse. You have Reform, you have Restore, which is sort of around the fringes there, and then you've also got the Greens on the left side of politics, which are surging in popularity.
They have their own.
They have their own sort of bubble of support.
That's it.
And having someone who's been an elected official since 2001, a former cabinet minister under Tony Blair, is not going to reverse the lack of fortune.
Now, just staying in the UK, and you mentioned the issue of online censorship. So, as it happens, one of Keir Starmer's final political breaths, it seems, is dedicated to following Australia's dubious lead in banning social media platforms from offering services to those under the age of 16, with a government media release saying directly that, the government plans to use the same model for a social media ban as Australia. Call me cynic, but that doesn't seem too reassuring for the British people.
No.
Given right now, Parliament is debating new amendments to its own social media ban laws to double the fines and ramp up the enforcement powers of the E-Safety Commissioner in the face of admissions that compliance with the laws is extremely low and fines have not been issued in relation to non-compliance. Frankly, the scheme is just broken.
Yeah.
So there's a few issues. I'll just invite you to comment on that first. And then what this says about, I think there is the governments, in Australia and in the UK, they are really committed to this idea of government ramping up regulation of the internet.
Yeah.
And I think there's a few ideas that are underway here, but I'll throw it to you first.
So the this new sort of these new regulatory powers that have been granted to the Safety Commissioner is, I think, a common trend that you see in lawmaking in a lot of Western countries, but particularly Australia, in which to fix one bad law, instead of just admitting mistake and repealing it all together and starting fresh, they're actually just putting more bad laws on top of existing bad laws to make it magically solve itself, and that's not. No, I mean, that's been never how it works.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's quite annoying that like it's bad law.
Yeah.
And they're papering over the cracks of their bad laws.
Of existing bad laws.
Coercive, like extraordinary new coercive powers for the government to sort of make it easier to enforce.
So it's
so common. It's so frustrating.
So these new regulations, I'm not that concerned about the fines, to be honest. Even though I think the social media ban for under 16-year-olds is a bad policy, I think doubling the fines, is much of a muchness. We're talking.
I think it's a distraction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When the big issue for me is actually the ability to basically collect data.
Yeah.
The government to collect data from social media companies
and third parties.
Yes, and third parties about of Australians.
Yep. Well, our colleague Andrew Bushnell, he called it a regulatory fishing expedition.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is like, it's just, they've essentially just completely thrown the chains off the Safety Commissioner to just target people.
Yeah. Based on
what
reasonable grounds.
What he considers reasonable grounds and relevant to compliance. It seemed like I can't even imagine. Like, how could you realistically confine that? I'm not even.
Oh, no, exactly. Well, so that's what I'm really concerned about. The sort of the data collection of Australian citizens by the federal government in order to find discretions.
Yeah.
It's I think it will lead to the type of internet policing that we've seen in the United Kingdom. And you sort of see both the United Kingdom and Australia when it comes to, the policing of the internet occurring in reverse order. Whereas the United Kingdom started with arresting people and are now banning kids on social media, whereas we banned kids on social media. And this type of fact-finding mission that the Safety Commission is going to be able to do is actually going to, in all likelihood, result in what we've seen already in the United Kingdom.
Well, and I'll tell you how that will happen, because the government has also committed to this idea of a digital duty of care. Now, this doesn't really, it's only vaguely described at the moment, but the idea of a digital duty of care is that the government will impose on digital platforms and companies an obligation to ensure that their platforms do not host harmful content. Now, what do we know about the meaning of the word harm? It is very, very flexible, and if that will really facilitate what you're talking about.
Yeah,
which is okay. So we need to essentially target these platforms because they're hosting content we don't like.
Yeah,
and what the reforms that Parliament are debating now is really sort of setting the scene for what we can expect. Okay, so if it's okay for the Safety Commissioner to have these fishing expedition powers for this law, we can probably expect that they'll have the same powers for the digital duty of care. Like, this is going to become standard.
Well, this sort of mission creep goes back to the original creation of the Safety Commissioner and the coalition, where it was supposed to be purely for, the safety of children.
Now it's literally called the Children's E-Safety Commissioner.
Whereas now it's actually, the safety for the entire community and, and online harm. So I fully...
And the E-Safety Commissioner just has sort of carte blanche authority to target content she actually just seems to disagree with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be a nexus with the objects of the legislation.
Yeah. So I suspect that you're correct in that assertion that, this will see mission creep and this these data collection methods be used for other purposes, which is exactly why these laws should this bill should not be passed.
Yeah.
And then the original social media ban should just be repealed, because ultimately it's the prevention of people to access news services. Vast majority of 15 and 14-year-olds who would just start to become like news literate at that, very early age, and politically engaged. They don't read the Australian or the AFR or the Herald Sun or the Daily Tally or the Age, they would access their news via social media. It's actually making Australians less news literate. It's making young Australians less engaged in their future, essentially. So I think, for many reasons, these laws should just be scrapped altogether.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
the commissioner should be abolished.
well, yeah, let's just make sure we get that on the record.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. For the as it pertains to the under 16 social media ban, I think just as a matter of practice, I just don't think it's workable.
No.
I think that it is far too ambitious for a government to realistically achieve, at least not without extraordinary intervention in order to make it workable.
Yeah,
Like, digital IDs
Yeah.
and requiring people to upload photos of themselves to the internet.
Yeah,
Like all the age verification stuff that I've encountered is really offensive to me. And what I would like to see from government, and it seems like it's just becoming harder and harder to imagine, but when they have a bad idea and it doesn't work, to actually maybe go back and say, was this the right idea in the first place? Thank you for watching The Mainstream. If you like what we do, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and head over to the IPA website at ipa.org.au to see our research and analysis and support our work by becoming a member. Now back to the chat. So on that topic of the political winds changing, and as all political discussion in Australia inevitably turns, we have to talk about One Nation.
Yeah.
Where we have seen a range of opinion polls that appear, in my mind, to present mixed messages. So there's been more polls, but this is just a snapshot of what I noticed. On the 22nd of June, a Roy Morgan poll had One Nation increase its primary vote by 2 points, with the headline saying, "Federal election now too close to call after Pauline Hanson's speech at the National Press Club, as One Nation increases primary vote." Now, 1 week later, Roy Morgan had another poll, which had One Nation's primary vote decline by 5 points, with the headline now saying, "ALP in election-winning position after Pauline Hanson's comments on monoculturalism cost One Nation support." Correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't those comments from the same press club address?
Yes, they most definitely were.
And then, but that 5-point drop has really dominated headlines for a few days. And then since then, we've seen, for instance, Essential Research had One Nation 1 point ahead of the ALP.
Yeah. And
something that I really want to touch on in particular is on Thursday, I believe, a Victorian poll by Redbridge had One Nation 1 point ahead of both the ALP and the coalition. So what, Saxon, can you help me make sense of this? I'm just going to sit back and let you educate me on this.
So I think the big problem with this is and sort of the different outcomes that we're seeing across various different polling companies is that Australians are very dissatisfied, and also we live in a very fast news, particularly political news environment, which means that people's opinions can change quite dramatically. But specifically talking about the difference between sort of the federal polling from Roy Morgan and from Essential compared to the Victorian-based one on Redbridge is that I think this could potentially mean that the One Nation brand is bigger now, and maybe has been for a while, than just Pauline Hanson, which I think is a significant growth for the party, because for a long time you couldn't separate the two.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was literally called Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party.
So I think that there is actually people can differentiate between the two, particularly because Pauline Hanson's from Queensland, and this is a Victorian state election, and also particularly because just like as we were discussing earlier with the United Kingdom, the Victorian Labor Party is incredibly unpopular.
Yeah.
And also the Victorian Liberal Party has had its problems over the last 27 years, and
They are very much helped by their opponents.
yes,
Yeah.
but I think this growth of One Nation is actually going to be taking votes more from Labor than the coalition at the next state election.
Well, why don't we talk about what do we think will happen? Yeah, we're still a few months. We're a few months out now.
Yeah.
But I find it quite interesting that One Nation still don't have a
leader. No, I find that extraordinary.
And they had let's see, 27%. So One Nation on 27% of the primary vote on the basis of really no leader, no policy platform.
Yeah.
For Victoria.
Yeah.
I mean, I find that quite curious.
Yeah.
But how do you think it would realistically play out?
So I think that One Nation is going to be the seats that One Nation win. I think we're going to predominantly come from outer suburban Labor seats. Because I think the Nationals in Victoria have a stronger brand than perhaps in other states. I mean, the LNP in Queensland means that the National Party is literally no more. And then in the national brand in New South Wales has been harmed quite a bit in the last 10 years. Whereas I actually think that the National Party in Victoria is very grassroots and is the most capable of holding regional seats from One Nation, but
the track record is quite good.
Yeah. But the general weakness of the Labor Party in Victoria, and sort of the harm that the Liberal brand can have in working class outer suburban seats, makes me think that One Nation has a big chance to win multiple seats in the outer suburbs such as Pakenham, Melton, Frankston even. So those type of seats. Which are very tradie, working class, and are very much against sort of the very woke Labor focuses that we've seen over the last 15 years.
Yeah. It's quite interesting because I think I think One Nation will do well.
Yeah.
And they'll pick up seats, and they'll definitely pick up upper house seats.
Yes.
Probably the biggest obstacle for them is, I feel like this state election is very much a change of government election.
Yes.
I feel like this is going to be the main and primary motivating factor for a lot of voters.
Yeah.
Whereas One Nation, they're not fully a protest party anymore.
No.
But I'm not sure that they are yet a party of government. So
I suspect that the coalition, either a minority or majority government, will win.
Yes.
The next step.
I agree.
And I think they'll do it off the back of quite a bit of few One Nation preferences as well.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the 2PP in this polling had the coalition of 54-46. Now, 2PP is not always useful at the moment, considering we have essentially three major parties at the moment. Yeah. So it's not that useful for the time being. But
one data point from I just want to mention this before we move on. The one data point that actually influencing my thoughts is they had a question in the Redbridge poll about whether you agree or disagree that a political party is talking about the right issues.
Yes.
And for the coalition, it was plus. It was either a coalition or the Liberal Party alone were net plus 7%. So this is more people agree than disagree that they're talking about the right issues.
Yeah.
One Nation were net 0. So it was the same between people who agree and disagree.
A good and net 0.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty harmless. And for the Labor Party, it was negative 17%. So significant amount of people disagree than agree that they're on the right issue.
I think that comes down to the CFMEU alleged corruption issue, because Jacinta Allen has looked very timid and on the back foot when this issue has come up, and the coalition have been very strong in discussing and making the case about this.
Yeah.
And And I think that is, well, ever since the $15 billion figure came out about the cost to taxpayers
Yep.
over this alleged crisis and alleged misuse of taxpayer funds, it's become more tangible to people. Whereas before, I think if they were going to talk about alleged corruption on big build projects, it was always it was very vague. It wasn't very it was sort of, yeah, maybe, but there's no real proof, there's no numbers. And I think it's become very tangible.
Yeah.
And I think it's a significant reason why the Allen government's on the back foot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's probably the right line of thinking, and does, it's one example, but it is one of many examples of why people are dissatisfied with politics, as usual. And on that point, a very interesting story, not out of Melbourne, but out of Canberra. Last week we had the news that the influential Australian Council of Trade Unions is relitigating, of all things, the proposal for a voice to Parliament. In its submission to a parliamentary inquiry into racism, hate and violence directed at Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, the ACTU is pushing for the government to put the voice back on the agenda, censor the internet to combat online hate, and, quote-unquote, the need to revisit celebrating the 26th of January. Saxon, are these people serious?
Unfortunately, I think they are. I think they're very serious. And I think that we actually need to take this seriously. The ACTU are not some fringe group of people. They're a very influential part of the Labor Party's policy decision making.
Yeah.
We saw that they so in the last term, in Albanese's first term of government, they essentially wrote his industrial relations reform agenda, and they passed it. And these were not reforms that the Labor Party ran on. These were not reforms that they advertised. They were just dropped at short notice on a sort of a fake policy summit that they did with the BCA and all the other employer groups, and to make it seem like that everyone was on the same page.
Yeah.
And we're just going to rewrite a significant amount of industrial relations law off the back of the ACTU. Now, if the Albanese government can pass a bunch of reforms that were essentially written by the ACTU without warning, they can do it again. And the ACTU have at least advertised it this time. And we know what's coming.
Yeah.
And also, this is an ideological project for the Albanese government. Not so much the Australia Day one, but the voice to Parliament.
Yeah.
Because the first thing the Albanese said after he won the election in May 2022, after his welcome to country, was, we will be implementing the ill restatement of the heart.
Yep. In full. That's
full.
And I should say, for completeness, that this submission by ACTU does cover all of the ideas. So this is very much this is meaningful because the ACTU this is one of the key power centers of the Labor Party.
Yes,
if not the most powerful.
Yeah.
And if this is, and I've got to say, this is quite a bizarre amount of work for the ACTU to do on a matter which is only very distantly related to trade union concerns.
Yeah.
But this is I just think this is very indicative that this is still despite the overwhelming rejection of the voice by the Australian people at a referendum.
Yeah.
This is still very much in the sort of nerve center of the government.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of the federal government.
Yeah.
And also I just think they're so... it's particularly obvious. We know how Australians feel about the voice.
Yep.
And we also know how Australians feel about Australia Day.
Yeah.
We've found in consistent polling that support for Australia Day has actually increased in recent years.
Yes.
And it's approaching 80%.
Yeah.
It is not even...
It's an incredibly niche.
Only the most niche parts of elite society have a problem with Australia Day. And I just thought there's another story here that I just thought was quite emblematic of it in the city of Melbourne,
Yeah.
where, and as background, so in 2022, the council, the city of Melbourne, voted to stop celebrating or commemorating Australia Day. Now, in 2026, the Lord Mayor Nick Rees has moved and successfully moved a motion to give funds to local groups for events associated with Melbourne Day,
Yep.
which commemorates the anniversary of the European settlement of Melbourne.
Yep.
Which is fundamentally the same thing,
yeah.
as Australia Day, and there was a big, it all sort of became a bit of argy-bargy where the Greens councillors were sort of tying in their problem with Australia. It all became sort of entangled into one issue, and but I just find that quite, and I would like credit to the council. This was an 8-2 decision.
Yeah.
This was not. This is actually reflective of how people would feel about that issue.
It's very proportional.
Yeah,
It's a proportional reflection of how Australians view Australia Day. 8-2.
8-2. I find that's uncanny. And so obviously the next step is, the city of Melbourne needs to get back on board for Australia Day. Like, the people are on board, and the sort of the oddball, harebrained ideas of those in the ACTU and the political class, to essentially try to stop people from celebrating Australia's history, or to divide people by race, as in the case for The Voice. Like, they just have no purchase in the community.
No.
And so I think the city of Melbourne is on the right track. I have to put my hands together for them.
Yeah. Well, I think good on the City of Melbourne Council for doing that for Melbourne Day. They need to reverse their decision made by Sally Capp.
Yes,
2022.
Yeah.
For me to give them the full credit.
Yeah. I'm being a bit presumptuous.
Yeah.
You are correct. Yeah.
Because I think Melbourne Day is not widely known. For example, it's certainly not as well known as Australia Day. But it just gets back. It goes back to these sort of broken promises that we were talking about with Keir Starmer, as the same with full circle here here in Australia, in that the Albanese government and sort of the intellectual power brokers behind the Labor Party, being the ACTU, have no business trying to bring back the voice to Parliament, and they have no business trying to cancel Australia Day. But this is just the thing.
Yeah.
I don't think the political elite, particularly the political elite within the Labor Party, care about breaking promises or going against the widely held views of the Australian people. Otherwise, they wouldn't have tried to divide us by race, and they wouldn't have, or in the Prime Minister's word, for 50 times lied to the Australian people about taxes during the last election campaign. So I'm not surprised at all that the ideological fervour of the political left in the political class have maintained this line of trying to bring back the voice to Parliament in the same way that the political left have always held strong views about death duties, for example, or about negative gearing. Like, the Labor Party have for a very long time wanted to get rid of negative gearing, and they've done a while grandfathering it, which I don't understand how that works with their intergenerational equity argument. But I just think that it's completely ridiculous to be bringing these issues to the forefront of people's minds, particularly when it's this type of political activism from the government that actually put them on the back foot during the last term of government.
Yeah.
The Labor Party was actually, people forget this because the Coalition are in such a bundle at the moment, but the Coalition were actually leading the polls for a significant amount of the last term of government for almost a year, like a year and a bit, in the, basically the 15 months post the referendum. So I don't know what the ACTU, even if they do, I don't know, they genuinely believe in the voice to Parliament, but even if they do, they have no reason to try to essentially sabotage the Prime Minister in this way. And I'm sort of glad that they have, because it means that we know what we're up against. And we also need to, it's a good reminder that we need to be constantly defending our national symbols, because there are forces in the country that want to get rid of them or want to destroy them. And if you become complacent in their security, it means that they can be taken away.
Well, this is what, so much of our work,
Yeah.
the IPA, about talking about our national symbols is, if you don't protect them, they will take them.
Yeah.
So you do have to fight.
You have to defend them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we've spoken a lot about broken promises on this podcast today, but I'll say to you viewers that one promise that we will keep is that the Mainstream will be back. But that's a wrap for today. Saxon, thank you for
Thank you, Morgan.